Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, 'You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.'" "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So these are some of the first verses of Genesis chapter 3, the fall. And this is when the serpent is trying to trick the woman, and by tricking the woman, he will also trick the man, and they will both sin and do what God told them not to do. And he's trying to make them rethink or question what God clearly told them not to do. And in Revelation 12, verse 9, it talks about how the serpent was the devil. So the serpent is probably the devil here in Genesis 3. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man, "Where are you?" So the serpent tricks Eve, and Eve tricks Adam, and then they realize that they're both naked, and instead of gaining amazing wisdom, they now know evil, I guess. So they now know evil and good, kind of like what the serpent said, but he was very wrong because they're not like God. They're not ever going to be God. But yes, now they do realize things, and this is how the world that God created that was supposed to be perfect was created into a world of sin, because the first two people ever chose sin and chose to do exactly what God told them not to do. And now they're hiding from God because they are ashamed and they know they did something wrong. So after God says, "Where are you?" and he calls out to the man, Adam answers, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" The man said, "The woman you put here with me, she gave some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." So we can see here that Adam is putting all the blame on Eve, and even though Eve is the one who did tell him about this fruit and to do this, he did choose what he did, and he is just blaming another person when he chose to eat this fruit. And Eve is putting all the blame on the serpent, and yes, even though the serpent was the one that did this to both of them, they both made their own choices, and this is just very much how humans work to this day. People always put the blame on other people when they chose to do things themselves. So we can see that Adam is admitting that he was afraid and he was naked, so he hid. And we can also see that the serpent is not right, that God did not make them the way they were without knowing the things they did. God did that for a reason. And he did that actually to protect them, because they were never supposed to know what it was to be naked. They were never supposed to know evil. And it shows us a lot of the times how we are like children, and many children will put all the blame on someone else, and they'll be like, she did it or he did it. And children will think that their parents are not allowing them to do things because they just don't want what's best for them, when it's actually the parents trying to protect them. And we can see this is what God was doing. He was trying to protect all of humanity from knowing these things, but Eve wanted this wisdom, which really wasn't wisdom. It was actually just something she was never meant to have. And this is how the world became what it is today. So the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." I'm not sure, but I've heard that this is like a symbolism of Jesus, because Jesus will come and crush the devil's head. And This is God giving punishments to the serpent, and in a second he's going to give punishments to Eve and Adam for what has happened. But it is supposed to symbolize Jesus, maybe, when it says, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and your offspring and hers, and he will crush your head and you will strike his heel. To the woman he said, I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. This is the punishment that God is giving to Eve. He's giving her pains in childbearing, so this is the reason why childbirth is painful. And her desire will be for her husband, but he will rule over her. And so this is probably where God created the order that the man would be like the leader of his wife. And this was what God decided to do, to punish Eve for what she did. To Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. Adam named his wife Eve, because she would become the mother of all the living. The Lord God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. And the Lord God said, the man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. So the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he had been taken. After he drove the man out, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. I always thought it was really beautiful how this is people doing the first sin, but God still makes garments of skin for them to wear. He still clothes them, and he still shows them so much love. And yes, they were punished, but he shows them so much love. And it makes sense that God is our Father, because like I was saying, a lot of us, we can be like children. We put the blame on everyone else, and we do all these really childish things. And God is like our Father, because yes, he punishes us. Yes, he didn't want us to know all these things because we weren't supposed to know them. But as a father, he's still going to clothe us. He's still going to love us. And yes, he's going to punish us, because a good father does. It also says in the Bible somewhere that like someone who does not punish their child does not love their child. And if you love your child, you'll punish them. So, and it says like we should be happy when God punishes us, because that's what he does for his children. So yes, he's going to give us punishments, but it is nothing we cannot bear. God always gives us something that we can bear. And if God punishes us, we deserve it. And not only do we deserve it, it's going to correct us and it's going to help us. Thank you if you watched this video. And I will be posting a Genesis 4 hopefully sometime soon.